It's time for the Writer's Block, our weekly look at all things sports. I'm Jenny Carlson here in the studios at the Oklahoman, and he is Cedric Golden in the offices of the Austin American-Statesman. Hello, Cedric.
What's up, Jay Carr?
Lots of sports, buddy. Let's get talking on the lead segment about the NBA. Lots of NBA talk, but right now people are talking about the Warriors. They're talking about Kevin Durant. They're talking about whether Kevin Durant's going to be a Warrior after this year. Lots of Kevin Durant, lots of Warriors talk. Are you focusing, Cedric, on what's happening in these playoffs? Or are you thinking more about what about KD come off season and free agency?
I'm thinking about KD because it's just such a great story. He hasn't done a whole lot to calm the fires of him leaving Golden State for free agent waters, but I think that the Warriors winning 5 straight games without him doesn't do his legacy at Golden State any favors. I don't know that he cares about that. I think if they go on to win a championship and he doesn't come back and he's played his last game for Golden State, he may go down as the guy who jumped on the bandwagon and picked up a couple of championships with a ready-made title ball club. He's a great player. He's a transcendent talent. He's a generational talent. But I will always remember the 3-1 lead that got away with him and Russ. They had a chance to close out a dynasty in Golden State. They didn't get it done. He beat them. He didn't beat them, and so he joined them. Great player, but you still wonder if he will ever be the sole alpha dog on a championship team.
Well, I wrote a little about Kevin Durant and the Warriors earlier this week. You can check it out on Oklahoman.com. But, yeah, Cedric, you bring up that 3-1 Western Conference Finals series from 2016, and the Thunder did have a chance to win that. They were clearly a better team in the first 4 games. And really, for even much of those last 3 games, you could say there were stretches where they looked like the better team. But Kevin Durant going into free agency, the Warriors seeing how much of a threat the Thunder was emerging as, and the fact that if they re-sign Durant, they're going to probably go out and get even better players. They got Victor Oladipo before free agency kicked in. The Warriors had to be sweating their chances in the West, much less how do you handle LeBron and, at that time, the Cavaliers in the East. So the bonus of going after Durant is they got him, but they needed to get him away from Oklahoma City, which they did, and we've seen them win these last 2 championships, obviously. But you know, you're right, Cedric. I think as we watch the sort of old school Warriors roll through the Western Conference Finals, 4-0 against Portland. Now, you know, will KD be available? Who knows? But these guys don't seem like they need Kevin Durant. Now, they're better with him. I mean, people are saying maybe the Warriors are not as good without him. What you said before, transcendent player, one of the best players on the planet. They're not better without Kevin Durant, but they're still really, really good. So I would actually like to see what they could do in the finals without him for a few games. Let's get a little comparison. But you know, now there's talk. Knicks aren't the only team in the mix. Looks like Clippers might be in the mix. It doesn't sound like Kevin Durant's going to be a Warrior, even though they're talking they would like to re-sign him. Where is he playing next year, Cedric?
I think he's going to the Knicks, and I just don't really understand why he would want to go to the Knicks. I know it's the most important basketball city in America. It's where the Rucker was formed, and Walt Frazier and Willis Reed, Dave DeBusschere, Bill Bradley, those guys. That's like 40 or 50 years ago. They haven't won in a very long time. They got to the finals a couple of times in the 90s, lost to the Spurs and the Rockets. But lost to the Rockets and Spurs. But here's the thing that you have to ask yourself if you're Kevin Durant. Do you really want to go through that media firestorm, page 6 in New York, the biggest media market in the country? You want to go through that? Or do you want to just go to LA or the Clippers? Those are big media markets as well, but not nearly as passionate about their basketball. The Lakers haven't been good in a very, very long time, and the Clippers are on the way up, but they're not close to a championship. So I would go to LA and play for one of those teams, preferably the Clippers, and bring Kawhi Leonard along with me. But I don't think KD, the way he's kind of set up with his fake Twitter accounts that he was exposed doing and slapping back at media members, like Chris Broussard
Yeah.
on Twitter. Those are the kind of things that make me think that he's a little bit too sensitive for the Big Apple.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see how that would all play out because, I mean, when you look at the Knicks and the Lakers, and Cedric, you mentioned maybe the Clippers is the best spot. The Knicks and the Lakers have just been a mess of organizations. I mean, not only have they not won at the level that, you know, historically those franchises have, they've just been in disarray, it seems like, for so long. I was doing some research on an unrelated topic recently and was looking back at some newspapers from 2000, and at that point, the Knicks are in the playoffs, and it felt like I had stepped into an alternate universe. You know, that seems such like a long time ago that they would be playing ball in late May or early June. So, yeah, lots of messes around the NBA where Kevin Durant lands. It's going to be the talk of the offseason and free agency. We'll have to keep an eye on that, and we will. Let's talk segment 2 today, Cedric, and that is by the numbers. And you're going to go with $100K. Man, that's a lot of coin. And there's a guy that a person, I don't know their identity, but they may win it because they went out on a big limb and said the St. Louis Blues are going to win the NHL crown, and darn if they're not close.
Well, I know $100,000. That's Jenny Carlson money. I wouldn't know anything about that, but I'm going to tell you, there's a guy named Scott Barry. Early in the NHL season, he's a longtime St. Louis Blues fan, and he plunked down $400 on his St. Louis Blues to win the NHL, the Stanley Cup. And at the time, the Blues were one of the worst teams in the league, and the odds were 250 to 1. And so, if they do it and they're in the Stanley Cup Finals, he could score $100,000. The problem is if they don't do it, he scores 0. So what's been happening, Jenny, is there are auction houses out there that will buy your futures ticket for a set upon price. For instance, he could score $100,000 if they win. So maybe it's in his best interest to sell that ticket to a gambler for $50,000, and that gambler may go, "I'm going to risk this $50,000 to win 100." The problem is if you're doing that, then the guy that you're selling the ticket to, he could just go to a casino himself and bet $50,000 on him to win it. So he's probably going to be in it, end up cashing out. And I checked this morning, I hadn't seen anything late on it, but he'll probably end up selling that ticket for $20,000 or $25,000. That's a tidy little profit on a $400 investment.
Pretty good investment, and if he's a Blues fan, he has to be walking on cloud 9 right now because the Blues, Cedric, this isn't my number, but I'll throw one out. 49. That's how many years it's been since the Blues have been in the Stanley Cup Finals. I had no idea it had been that long. You know, a lot of people in sort of the Midwest talk about Kansas City Royals a few years ago, how long it had been since they'd not been in the World Series. Well, here's another team from the Show Me State, 49 years since the Blues have been in. And a fun story that came out of St. Louis the other night when they were playing in the conference finals to get into the playoffs. Apparently St. Louis having some bad storms that night, much like we've seen, again, throughout our part of the world here recently. And there was a tornado warning close to St. Louis, and the TV, they were preempting the Blues games, and people were up in arms. Give us our hockey back. We know there's a tornado, but we got to watch this game. So unbelievable. This is also a team, as you mentioned, Cedric, bad at the beginning of the year. Into January, they were out of the playoffs. Now they're in the NHL Finals. Unbelievable story about the Blues. Okay, I got a number for you. We can talk a little NFL, and here we are in May talking about the NFL. That's why it's at the top of the pecking order. Here's my number, $13 million. That's the number that Gerald McCoy was set to make for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They let him go, and it looks like he's going to end up signing for lesser money, probably $9 million, $10 million, but he may get to play for a contender, which, Cedric, you've seen lots of Longhorns from your area. I've seen Sooners from this area get on teams, play really well like Gerald McCoy did, but it's a franchise that just isn't very successful. I know he's losing several $1 million, but the chance to go play for a contending team, that's pretty cool. That's really exciting to get to see when you see guys have that chance.
And Gerald McCoy, and you've been around him a lot, he's a delight.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the best interviews ever. Just a quote machine, funny, glib. Tampa Bay is a bad football organization. Ever since Gruden left and Tony Dungy, it's just been a really horrible experience if you're a football fan in Tampa. Gerald McCoy has made his money. He's got millions in the bank. He can now pick and choose where he wants to end up. He could maybe go to a Tennessee or a Jacksonville, somewhere like that, maybe a Dallas, a team that we know is on the way up, a team that we know can afford to pay him 9 or 10 million a year to plug that defensive line and occupy some blockers and let those linebackers make some plays. I think he's got plenty of gas left in the tank. The joy of being a free agent is you and your agent get to figure out where you want to go, where you want to live for 6 months. And I think that he will end up in a nice spot. He's got 4 or 5 good years left in him. Why not try and win a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
You've won games in Tampa Bay, but not nearly enough. You're used to winning because you played at Oklahoma, and now you get a chance in the back half of your career to figure out how you can make a real Super Bowl run. He's going to end up with a nice team, and I hope to see Gerald McCoy in the playoffs. It'd be fun to watch him.
Well, Cedric, you bring up how great he is for us to talk to, and my guess is that he's been one of the great guys in that locker room in Tampa Bay. I mean, great teammate, a guy that people want to rally around. I don't think Tampa Bay necessarily thought he was done. I didn't get that impression at all. I think, as you said, I think they felt like he still had good years left, but at the money, I think they felt like they wanted to do some things differently with the dollars, which, you understand when you're dealing with an entire franchise. But that's a guy that's going to go in and not only play well, one of the best. He's one of the best on the defensive line in the NFL right now. I mean, it's just been that he's been in obscurity with the Bucs, but he's going to go in and play well, and then he's just going to be a great chemistry guy, a great locker room guy. So whoever gets him wherever he decides to go, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for him. I'm excited for him. I think it's going to be really fun to see maybe how his brand rises, because I think he has been one of those guys that maybe people aren't aware of just how good he's been because they haven't had a chance to see him as much as his level of play probably deserves. All right, let's go on to segment 3. We're calling it Where's the Beef? Cedric, you and I are old enough to remember Where's the Beef, but there's a there's a big beef going on out in LA, that being between Magic Johnson, the Lakers, everybody he left behind after he left that organization a couple weeks ago, well, now a month or so ago. This story just kind of keeps going, which, you knew it was crazy at the time, Cedric, when he just up and says, I'm done, but now here we are. He's talking about getting stabbed in the back by Rob Pelinka, all these different things. This story just doesn't stop.
And Magic went on the ESPN's First Take with Stephen A. Smith and basically pulled the curtain out and just let you see all the dysfunction in Laker Nation. Linda Rambis making calls, Rob Pelinka saying that Magic doesn't work hard, and Kobe silently working the background. It is a monstrous circus in Lakerland. The Lake Show is dead. Magic, I wanted to fire Luke Walton. Wow, you got to put that out there. Okay, Magic, that's fine. Here's my thing. If you claim to be such a Laker man and a Laker loyalist, why are you giving away all the secrets? I mean, we all have dirt in our families that we're never going to share with friends or the outsiders. But Magic Johnson, man, he showed everything, and to me, I thought it was a bad look. It was great for journalism. I'm glad Stephen A. Smith got that interview. It was must-see television. But Magic Johnson, if I'm a Laker fan, I've got to question the great Magic Johnson's loyalty to Laker Nation, to Jeannie Buss, and to the people that run that organization. It didn't come across as Magic, the lovable leader and the lovable Laker. It came across as Magic saying, I'm done with you guys, and this is what happened. It was a bad look, I thought. Good for journalism, really bad for Magic.
Yeah, it sort of has all the trappings of a Hollywood flick, which I guess when you're out in La La Land, maybe that's the stuff that happens all the time. But yeah, Cedric, you're right. I mean, to me, maybe all the stuff that Magic is saying is absolutely 100% accurate. I mean, I think that it's entirely possible it is. But I think if you're in his position, you were a Laker, there might come a day where you want to work in an NBA front office again. Those two things would make me think twice about, like you said, Cedric, pulling back the curtain and just showing everybody what you say is happening. I think it really undermines the organization, obviously, but I think it also hurts Magic's chances of maybe ever having any sort of front office job again, because who wants to run the risk that he pulls this again if he leaves you? So it's a mess. To me, it's one of those things that if you're a player there now, I mean, they obviously recognize what's going on, but I would have to think a lot of guys are sitting around going, oh my gosh, this is, what have I gotten myself into? LeBron James picking the Lakers last year, and he just has to be beside himself about some of this. So it'll be interesting to see if the Lakers can make any headway in offseason free agency because of all of this going on. Are free agents still going to be pulled to LA because of LA, because of the brand as it has been for years? Or are they going to say, I don't want any part of that mess? It'll be interesting to see. All right, here's my where's the beef, Cedric. It is the all-defensive team in the NBA. All of these honors teams starting to come out. All rookie team is out. We'll continue to see these come out in the coming days. But all defensive team announced earlier this week. First team, Rudy Gobert, the great shot blocker from Utah. Paul George here in Oklahoma City. Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee. The big guy. I did as best as I could, not as good as you. Marcus Smart, the guard from Boston, and Eric Bledsoe, another Milwaukee guy, on the first team. I got a little bit of a beef with those guards. I do have to say the fact that Milwaukee is getting recognized as a small market team, Oklahoma City is a small market team, Utah is a small market team. I like that, but Drew Holiday is a second teamer from New Orleans. He is fantastic defensively. I wonder if the big market of Boston, and I like Marcus Smart. I think he's really good defensively, but where's your beef, Cedric?
Where's Kawhi Leonard? Excuse me, where's Kawhi Leonard on that team?
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard is the best defender in the NBA. And Kawhi Leonard not only has to carry the burden of scoring in Toronto at 26 points a game, but he also has to guard the other team's best perimeter player. And he does it, and he does it great. Have you seen what the Greek Freak's numbers are in this series with Kawhi Leonard guarding him? He can't score on him, and Kawhi's given up like 5 inches to him. Kawhi Leonard is the best two-way player in the league. He should have been on the first team. I think Draymond Green should probably be on the first team. I think they did a good job. I think they wanted to, like you said, reward the small market guys. Drew Holiday is the best defending guard in the NBA right now. He's taking Chris Paul's title from him. Yeah. I think Drew Holiday, Antetokounmpo, Greek Freak, Draymond, Kawhi Leonard, Gobert. That would have been my 5.
What you say about Kawhi is right. It's hard to ignore. He's got that cyborg quality to him. He's quiet. He just locks in and he just does his job. And obviously the offense, everybody wants to talk about that, but he's still so good defensively. And when they do these all NBA teams, they do it by the traditional positions: a center, 2 forwards, 2 guards. I wonder if that, as much as anything, causes a problem. You don't want to necessarily go 5 guards or 5 big men, obviously, but the way that the league is now, everybody switches so much. Who guards who and how you're defending teams is just so different than it used to be. I don't know how you address that when you're picking teams and you have those positions, but it seems like where you're talking about, especially the defensive team, maybe that area, as much as anything, needs to have some flex to it with those positions, because rookies, go ahead and pick a center, 2 forwards, 2 guards. I'm fine with that. But that all defensive team, that could be a little more flexible, Cedric.
I think so too. I think the key is to get the best 5 guys on that team.
Yeah.
I don't care what position they are. If they're 5 guards, that shouldn't matter nowadays, because if you look at it, Jen, the game is so European now. Everybody's shooting threes. You got 7-foot guys like Embiid shooting threes. and you're not really based as much as you were when we were growing up. The award was based on rebounds and block shots. Nowadays, there's so many threes being hoisted up that blocks are down overall and rebounds are down. The next time you watch a basketball game, an NBA game, count the amount of rebounds that bounce on the floor before somebody retrieves them. That's the European influence. So many long rebounds, so many threes being hoisted up. And when we were growing up, guys like Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone and Charles Barkley, those balls would never hit the ground. They were grabbing them off the top of the rim.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, those teams will keep coming out. Maybe we'll get to talk more about that next week. NBA Finals will be almost upon us. We'll have lots of NBA talk. I'm sure there'll be other stuff going on, too. So you want to stay with us? Writer's Block will be back at it next week. We hope to see you then.